Welcome back, fiber friends, to another episode of the Wool to Gold podcast. My name is Ryan, and today we're doing a WIP Check Wednesday. It's not going to be Wednesday by the time that I post this, but it'll be Wednesday, WIP Check Wednesday in spirit. So feel free to drop the WIP that you're working on while you're watching this video down below. It's been an incredibly long time since I did like any sort of WIP check for you guys, so I just thought I would check in. We can yap about all sorts of stuff, and I can show you guys my finished objects and my WIPs. I'm going to start with finished objects because there are definitely fewer of those, full disclosure. I just did a yarn drop and I just showed off a lot of the yarns that I've been finishing lately, but here are two that I finished super recently, just this week. If you saw the boucle tutorial, you already saw this beautiful boucle beaded yarn. This is Aquarium City 2. I'm absolutely obsessed with this. It's about 48 yards. It is a 3-ply. It is beaded with little pearls and little glass beads and little wooden star beads. Very, very proud of this skein. Very, very happy with the way it came out. The other yarn that I finished recently is a scrap yarn. By the time this video is posted, I'm pretty sure the make scrap yarn with me tutorial how to follow along is already going to be posted as well. So if you watch that, you've definitely seen this finished scrap yarn, but if you haven't, here it is. I don't have the stats on this yarn because between you and I skeined it up specifically for this video and to film the goodbye clip on that last video, and now I'm gonna go wash it. But we're counting it as a finished object because I didn't want to put it in the WIPs because it's essentially done. I haven't finished any crochet projects since the holiday season when I had to do a bunch of gift crocheting, so forgive me. I have no crochet finished objects. However, I am going to consider these bats finished objects for now. First, I'm already spinning this one. You're going to hear more about this later. I made this bat. It's Gulf Coast native. I processed it from a fleece. I am working through the very last of that fleece too, which is really exciting because I bought that at Maryland Sheep and Wool last year, and that is coming up in March this year. March? April? May? Could it possibly even be in May? I don't really remember the exact date for Maryland Sheep and Wool. Regardless, I worked through almost all of it, and it's January, so I'm pretty proud of that. Speaking of Gulf Coast native, I can't remember if I showed off this really cute bat that I made, but this is all naturally dyed by yours truly. It's all Gulf Coast native. It is logwood, Brazil wood, and Osage orange, which is more of a yellow color clearly. I really like this little homemade bat. I still don't know what I'm gonna turn it into. It's just so fluffy. It just has so much fluff. Gulf Coast native has a lot of loft in general, just naturally, and that's one of the things that I really like about it. Moving on to WIPs, I'm going to start with what am I spinning? So obviously I'm spinning this Gulf Coast native bat that I blended up. This is some white Gulf Coast native. Blended it up with the last of some local orange mohair that I had, and then some blue scraps. As you can see, I love a blue and orange colorway. It just always reminds me of goldfish, and I really love goldfish. I just think they're really cool fish. They deserve better. They deserve the right size tank. They give me similar feelings as pigeons and things like that. Anyway, I have already started spinning this, as you can probably tell by the bat size. This is the bobbin. I'm really happy with the way it's coming out. I love how the scraps are coming through, especially for the blue scraps. And I do have plans to keep this in singles because I've been spinning singles for weaving projects. I really want to put something on my vintage Weave It. If you haven't been introduced before, this is a vintage Weave It. It's essentially just a pin loom. There are modern versions of this. I think they're called Zoom looms, the modern ones. Obviously, this is an old school one. I bought this at a fiber festival because I saw what another maker had made with her version of this, and I was like, I need to do that. I've watched many a tutorial on how to do this. I think I can get a handle on it. I've read all the directions. I just have not actually sat down to weave something yet. And so I really wanted to get some singles busted out that I will be happy to use for weaving some little squares, right? Because I think I really would love to make a woven bag or something like that. I think I would get a ton of use out of that. And I have a lot of coarser fiber that I've been kind of sitting on, knowing I just need to find exactly the right thing to do with it. I still have 3/4 of a pound of rare hand-dyed Drysdale fiber that I really need to spin through. I constantly forget about that. But this episode is not about spiraling, about what we should be doing. It's about like what we're working on, locking in, focusing on that, and I am spinning singles so that I can put them on this Weave It eventually. Speaking of locking in, there are a lot of new folks around here, and if you don't know, I tend to do most of, emphasis on most, okay? I am not a purist. I've said that so many times on this channel. I am not a purist. So like, even though I'm not a huge fan of merino, if you followed me for like my controversial takes video, it's not like you're not going to see merino in my collection because it's kind of ubiquitous in fiber arts. It's absolutely everywhere, and sometimes it's just like the most accessible or even sometimes the most affordable thing available, especially if you're buying it secondhand. But I'm not a purist, and so I do most of my fiber purchases at the major fiber festivals that are local to me: Maryland Sheep and Wool, New Jersey Sheep and Wool, New York Sheep and Wool. NJ and New York are definitely my closest. Maryland is a little bit of a stretch, but I have a lot of friends in that area, and it's not that far from where I live. I'm happy to make the drive. Maryland is a beautiful area, in my opinion. And I like Maryland culture. Sue me. Because I do most of my fiber purchasing at the major fiber festivals, though, that means a lot of things are entering my stash in the spring and in the fall, and not so much in like the middle of the summer and the middle of the winter. It is the dead of winter around here, so I am really trying to like be creative with the stash that I have and work with what I already have in the studio and kind of push the limits as to how much I can stash down. I'm never officially doing a stash down because I'm always stashing down. I really think that more artists should approach their collection of materials that way, because at the end of the day, as much as I think that yes, having access to like a lot of different materials in front of you, especially a lot of like new and flashy stuff, can definitely give us a ton of inspiration. The inspiration and the weird stuff that I think up when I have like limited resources is often arguably more interesting. I'm just putting it out there. And this is even like me saying this out loud to remind myself of that fact and try to stick to my stash down. Because don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of times this month where I was like, I really want to just like, I want to buy some new fiber. I'm home, I'm spinning all the time, I'm thinking about fiber all the time, I'm seeing other people post about the fiber that they got like for the holidays and even in like early January and stuff like that. And obviously I am tempted, but this is me influencing you to underconsume this winter, especially because we do not know how the economy is going to go over the next like few years. There's a lot of like uncertainty in the air. I think a lot of people, myself included, are definitely mourning, even if it was just, even if you were like myself and you were a small creator on TikTok and you were only making maybe $150, $250 a month from the videos that you were posting, it was still something that can just go directly into art supplies or a small business, or for a lot of people just paying for daily life expenses and getting themselves out of debt. And there's no doubt that we are going to see some financial repercussions of this massive loss of income for a lot of US citizens. I'm also finally spinning this really beautiful Navajo churro braid. I got this from Nouveau, which is like, I think their tagline is a texture apothecary. They do a lot of like very textured art yarn and textured art yarn supplies. Truly one of the like best, most interesting, eclectic mix of hand-dyed like art yarn materials out there. I always find something new on their website, and the way that she looks at what can be yarn materials really like pushes me as an artist. So I really like her work. This is a little bit of Navajo churro that she dyed up that I bought a long time ago, probably over a year. I actually bought 3 of these braids and then an entire pound of Drysdale. Again, I spun about a quarter of the pound of Drysdale, and then I spun 2 out of the 3 of these braids that I purchased from her. So that's pretty good. I forgot though that I had this orange colorway, and something about orange has just been like, oh, I've just been so obsessed with orange and pink together, especially lately, has really been my jam. I've just been wanting to spin more orange, and so I finally pulled this bad boy out. The thing is, it's hand-pulled roving, so there's the hand-dyed hand-pulled roving, and then there's the white, and then there's the locks. I kind of want to spin the hand-dyed roving and the locks together into singles, and then also spin the white into just some singles as well. And I have started this project, so I separated off some of the fun dyed parts, and then this is the bobbin. Obviously, I didn't get very far because I forgot that I wanted to. I literally started this project, I was like, wow, Navajo churro, like, I forgot how much fun it is to, like, spin this kind of wool. It's, like, really, it's just really easy and fun and thoughtless, and it's a really nice popcorn spin while you watch other yarn tubers. And then I remembered that I needed to finish the scrap yarn video for you guys, and I was like, oh, you gotta spin that bat, buddy. You gotta get that bat on, especially because it was a little, like, small bat. My drum carder, although it looks, like, massive, I think a lot of people don't realize how little fiber you can actually fit on a lot of drum carders. A lot of drum carders tap out at, most drum carders I have seen tap out at about 3.6 ounces tops. There are some, like, extra big drum carders that obviously do the whole 4 ounces or, like, 4.2, but some of them, you look at them and you're like, for that size, maybe it should be able to do more than 4 ounces. You'd be wrong, though. You'd be wrong, especially if you're like me and you love a lofty wool, which I love lofty wools. The loftier and airier the wool, the less fiber that is going to be able to get onto that drum carder, because you just have, like, a lot of air trapped in. If you're blending up all, like, merino comb top, especially commercially produced merino comb top, you're definitely going to be able to fit, like, more fiber on a drum carder. I could probably fit a lot more comb top, probably a whole 3 ounces plus comb top, honestly, on my classic carder if I really pushed it. However, most of my bats come out to be around, like, closer to, like, 2.8, 2.5 ounces. That particular bat was definitely like 2.8, but it was a really quick spin regardless. But once I'm done with this really fun goldfishy spin, I am going to put this back on the wheel. Again, I've always had these, like, dreams of making kind of a rustic, coarse, rare wool bag, right? Because a lot of, like, coarser rare wools, they always say they're great for outerwear and they're great for hard wearing bags and things like that. I'd really like an heirloom woven bag of rare wool. I just think that could be really, really cool. That could be really neat. Again, maybe if I get really obsessed with my pin loom, I can make this dream come true. I couldn't be more excited to share this next WIP with you guys. This is my only crochet WIP right now. I really need to cast on another, like, project because I'm actually going to Savannah, Georgia in just a few days. If you're from Savannah, Georgia, if you have any suggestions on, like, fiber related or yarn related or just really cool stuff that you think I should check out while I'm in Georgia, drop the info below. I'd love to know. But in classic broke artist fashion, I did obviously get the cheapest ticket possible because I'm going to hang out with my bestie and I would rather spend the money there with my best friend than on the actual flight to get there. So I do have a layover. My flight is exceptionally long considering I'm only flying from Newark to Georgia. However, I need an airport project, and this is not an airport project. You're going to see why for a few reasons. I never think that sweaters are airport projects because they're just so big, but there's a lot of other reasons that I should not bring this to an airport, at least in my humble opinion. Maybe you'll think I'm being dramatic when I say that, but I do truly think that in the current climate that we are in, that this is not an airport project. But I haven't even looked through my yarns to cast that on yet, if I'm being honest. Kind of disappointed in myself for doing that. That's something else that I really need to do today, besides pack. And then the last thing that I have to show you guys, my crochet WIPs. So this is the sweater that I have been designing. I don't know, I had a little bit of pushback the long time I talked a little bit of politics on this channel. At the end of the day, I'm a fiber artist. Like, it's great if you learn something from my channel. I do put these resources out so that anybody who wants to spin yarn can be educated about that. But on the other hand, this is also, I have spoken about this again, the reason I started this YouTube channel is as a personal art archive. I am an artist, and I am not going to censor myself for the sake of making this a safe space for people who don't necessarily agree with my politics. Like, you can go and enjoy that educational content, that's fine. You don't have to enjoy content like this if you don't want to. But I'm not going to not put it out there and not put it on my channel, because this is what I'm working on. This is how I feel about this situation. I don't know, I unfortunately have had a lot of friends who at, like, an incredibly young age have had to declare bankruptcy because of medical debt. So I just personally, I don't know, I do have a lot of feelings about that. I don't know, my aunt had to declare bankruptcy as well when I was very young because she got breast cancer. Her husband essentially left her because that story is all too common. And then she went bankrupt because she was a public school teacher who had been teaching for years for the community that she was in, and she didn't have, like, obviously eventually with the chemo she got fired from her job and the medical debt piled up. Like, I don't know, I'm not really looking for, like, Luigi discourse down below. I will say I am somebody who, like, I think that I have put money on the books of people who are behind bars before in general because of the things that they have done or the things that they have stood up for, because unfortunately in this country, just like how we are all very few steps away from being homeless, being in debt, being in major medical debt, we are also all of us, very few steps away from being incarcerated. Because at the end of the day, this country has been built on the back of enslaved labor the entire time. We've never not been building on enslaved labor in this country, okay? If you've ever been to a university or a public school, a lot of the things in that very classroom were probably built by inmates. We have all physically interacted with things that people who have been incarcerated have made for literally nothing. So really too, like, the process of making this sweater has been about more than just the singular incident or even the singular issue of healthcare here in America. For me personally, it has been very reflective and a grave reminder of a lot of issues here in the US. And as somebody too who, like, I don't feel safe so often in this country, and as the 20th approaches, now less than ever. And you can, like, say what you want to comfort me or try to pretend that I am exaggerating, but also, like, as a trans person, as a gay person, unfortunately, where those two things intersect too, like, it's not even like my entire community on either side really has my back, unfortunately. It can just feel really dangerous and isolating during times like this. So before you leave a really, like, ignorant or insensitive comment below, I would just like to remind you to think about the position that you're in and how that might be different than the position that I'm in. Because also in these past few months, I've had to think about the fact that, like, I will not stay here. I will not stay here in the United States if I can't continue to be trans, to get access to gender affirming healthcare. Like, I won't. I will leave. If my ability to access testosterone disappears, like, I have to be ready to leave this country. And I just think that that's a consideration that, like, I'm at least in a privileged enough position that I can have that conversation with the people in my life that I love and my parents. But a lot of people don't even have that opportunity and are already living in states where it's so difficult for them to get access to the care that they need. And frankly, I don't think it should come to a surprise to anyone, new or old to this channel, that I am a humanitarian, that I believe that water is an innate human right, having food, an innate human right, having housing, an innate human right, having universal healthcare should be a human right. Having access and control over your own body as a woman or just as an individual, as a human being on this planet, should be a right. Okay? And if you're surprised by that, then I'm surprised. Have you not met artists? Artists are loud and obnoxious and political and annoying. If you missed that memo, maybe now might be the time to exit. Now might be the time to exit the page. Because there are a lot of other crochet and fiber art and spinning content creators that maybe they think like you, or at least maybe they don't talk about politics on their channel. Like, there are a lot of places you can go for that. Here I will talk about what I want. I will be loud and annoying and angry as hell about it, because again, that is artist's job. That's what we're here to do. We're here to be annoying and loud about the things that people don't want to look at. All of that being said, you guys can continue to expect some incendiary art from this channel. If you missed the blanket that I made here, if you're completely new to this channel, this is a really old finished object, and I'm gonna say goodbye to you all with this finished object today, and say thank you to all of you who do stick around, who I get a lot of messages all the time from folks who are just really overwhelmed and happy to find some kind of, like, queer community in the fiber arts, and I'm really happy to provide that kind of, like, space for the community. But speaking of, this is the DL blanket. I made this a while ago, and it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm gonna try to unravel it in a way that I can maybe show you guys the text a little bit better. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not really sure how much of this you guys are gonna see. God, I hope some of it. For me, honestly, it's the fact that I am continuously moving it farther out of screen. Love that for me. And I don't even know if you can see where that area is, or if it's on the first or the second half. I think it might be on the second half. Yeah, there it is. You can see the little area where I missed a singular stitch and did not add it back in. But yeah, this is the DL blanket. I love this blanket. It sits on my bed. This is the kind of art that I like to make, and this is the kind of stuff that, like, I tend to actually finish compared to, like, other types of crochet projects. And the episode that I filmed where I actually showed this off as a finished object on YouTube, I didn't end up posting because the audio ended up getting eaten for, like, a whole section of footage, and so I just never posted it. Anyway, thanks for watching, Fiber Friends. Thanks for tagging along for this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you are interested in fiber or handspun yarn. I do have my shop linked below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.